let's cross to Tom Brooks, who teaches political philosophy at Durham Law School. Thank you for being with us again here on France 24.
A pleasure.
Tom, if I remember correctly, you have out loud doubted in the past whether or not Brexit would happen. This time it looks like it's for real.
I've been doubting it was going to happen. I said that any Brexit would be a Brexit in name only, and it's still unlikely to make it through, predicting that there would be some type of referendum, a second referendum to follow. I still feel that this is absolutely right. I mean, what we've seen now is on the one side, people who were for Remain in Parliament. Of course, they've not liked the deal and perhaps expected to not like the deal, right, because they wanted Britain to stay in the European Union. But they've decried this plan because he says, well, it keeps us locked into large swathes of our current arrangement, but without a say over what these arrangements might be or what these rules might be in future. It's Brexit, but only in name only. It's like being the EU, but worse. Leavers on the other side, who Theresa May, the Prime Minister, has been trying to woo to her plan, they've been very upset about this because they say this is not honouring what we were arguing for during the referendum. This does not make good on the promises made. This is not something we can sign up to either. And because Parliament is split, I suspect we'll see Parliament vote this down, and a referendum seems to be the only alternative.
Yeah, how upset they are, though, is the question, Tom, because if you recall, 10 days ago, we were wondering if Theresa May's government would last the night. It did. We were wondering if the DUP would bring down her government. It didn't. She seems to have the wind in her sails right now.
Well, I think that it's right that the hardcore set of Brexiteers in the so-called European Research Group, led by Jacob Rees-Mogg, they clearly got their numbers wrong on how many were going to call for Theresa May to resign. I think it's fair to say that the mood amongst Tory MPs is not that the leader should be replaced, but that the deal should be replaced. There isn't a second person waiting in the wings to take over. There isn't much appetite for Boris Johnson. There's not appetite for another leader. But there's clear displeasure in this plan, and it seems almost a near certainty that this deal is going to be struck out. The DUP hasn't walked away yet, but they've said that if there's no change to this plan, then their deal with the Prime Minister is off. We know there's 80, 90 Tory MPs who will not be backing the Prime Minister's plan, that will be wanting something else. Some think she should go back to the drawing board. Of course, that's been said that there is no drawing board to go back to. This is the only deal on the table right now, so maybe that's a bit of illusion. Others say, well, look, if this is as good a Brexit as you can get, then...
If it's the only deal on offer, then it'll... And everyone keeps saying they don't want a no-deal Brexit. At the end of the day, maybe they won't vote once, but maybe they'll vote twice or three times, but it'll happen.
I'm still very unsure anything like that will happen, because now, before we heard Brexit is Brexit, we didn't. that was the Prime Minister's mantra. We didn't know anything about the detail. Now we've got 580 pages of what something like a Brexit might look like, the only kind of deal available right now. And it's not winning over Remainers, Leavers, or the rest of the country. And so I think this is clearly not on the cards. So the only thing that can happen right now is either we have a referendum, a public referendum for her deal or for Remain that draws a line under this for now, or there's a general election that can give some type of new mandate to move the country forward, maybe pause Britain's departure for now and see if something else might be possible in future. But mine is some kind of very big game-changing move from the European Union, which seems very unlikely. But this may well be the best type of deal Britain might get, and if that's the case, it seems there's no appetite for it, that the kinds of things that people who wanted to leave the European Union promised the British public were not going to happen, and the day of reckoning is about now.
All right, we know what the opposition is against. Let's listen, in fact, to Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn earlier in the Commons.
The Prime Minister may want to try and sell yesterday's summit as a great success, but to borrow a phrase, the reality is nothing has changed. The Prime Minister says if we reject this deal, it will take us back to square one. The truth is, Mr. Speaker, under this government, we've never got beyond square one.
Yeah, exactly.
The botched deal is a bad deal for this country.
Now, what's difficult, Tom Brooks, for us to figure out is what Jeremy Corbyn really wants. Does he want a better deal? Does he want no deal?
Well, I think that the position of the opposition has been very difficult because they're not in the driving seat for this Brexit deal. They're, of course, on the sidelines, as has much of the cabinet been on the sidelines, not quite knowing what the Prime Minister was doing. Of course, we know that until about September, most in the cabinet didn't know what her Brexit plan was going to be. And when they saw it, we started seeing the resignations and the Prime Minister started having a trouble. I think the view of the opposition right now has been to effectively not be blamed effectively for anything that goes wrong with this deal. So they're keeping everything on the table. They don't want to be seen as stopping anything prematurely. The Prime Minister wants to kind of control and do her deal. Well, okay, well, we'll let the Prime Minister do her deal. But setting a number of tests, and the tests that the Labour opposition have set for the Prime Minister have been largely strewn from her own comments. Remarks like that Britain will be no worse off, that the Brexit that she will get will benefit all regions of the UK equally, that none were going to be left out, and hold her to that series of tests. And it seems on those measures, a lot of people have been pretty critical of whether or not she's been able to meet that. But I think at the moment they've been kind of keeping things on the table because, well, in a sense, would they want to go back to the drawing board? Well, maybe if there was some wiggle room. It seems that there isn't any wiggle room. And I think that day by day, as we get closer and closer to March, I think we're hearing more calls on the Labour side, especially from shadow Brexit Secretary Keir Starmer, saying, louder and louder, that maybe a second referendum is really short of a general election, what the Labour opposition would be for.
But even that's unclear, Tom, because I'm just fuzzy about what the question would be in that referendum. Would it be a straight for or against the deal on offer? Would it be for or against remaining in the European Union?
Right. So on the referendum question, so there's been a lot of speculation about this. If it happened again, people didn't want to run the same referendum twice. So last was remain or leave. Doing it again to get the right result again. People don't want to have that. And that's understandable. What I think should be on it should be something different. The Prime Minister said that her Brexit plan is the only Brexit plan available at this moment in time. So if the MPs can't decide whether or not they want to support it, then I think that the clear thing for the referendum is to have it on Theresa May's deal or Remain. Why those two options and not others? Say, go back to the drawing board? Well, I think that short of a general election, there isn't any mandate in this country for going back to the drawing board. There would have to be something like this at the bare minimum on this side to even start that discussion. The other thing I think is no deal should not be on the table either. One of the reasons for that is that no deal was never an option during the referendum campaign. It was always said that the German automakers would never let Angela Merkel allow Britain to walk away without a deal, that deals would be so easy to do in post-Brexit Britain that Liam Fox said he'd sign 40, the International Trade Secretary, he'd have 40 signed in one day, and it'd be the easiest in human history. Whether or not these predictions were true or not is neither here nor there. The point is that during the referendum, no one thought there wouldn't be any deal. Everyone was arguing about what the best deal would be, whether it be within the European Union or without. So I don't think that no deal should be on. Another reason why I think it shouldn't be on is, of course, it would split that Brexit vote between no deal, May's Brexit versus Remain. So I think very clearly it should be May's Brexit is the only leave in detail we've got on the table right now versus Remain. If the MPs can't decide, let the people decide. And then maybe have a general election and see where things go from there. It may well be that the public has had a taste of Brexit and it hasn't liked what it tasted.
All right, Tom Brooks of Durham University. So many thanks for joining us on France 24.
Pleasure.